Father Stephen is the founder and pastor of St. Anne's Orthodox Church in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and writes the very popular blog, Glory to God for All Things. Father Stephen also wrote the book, Everywhere Present, Christianity in a One-Story Universe. So without further ado, I hope you'll enjoy this episode from my interview with Father Stephen Freeman.
Orthodox monasticism is a pretty good example of life in modernity, partly because they still live the same life that they lived 1,000 years ago. Although when we were together on Mount Athos last fall, I noticed I never ran out of signal from my phone. I was a little scandalized by that, but it was funny. But generally, monastics in Orthodoxy live a life of prayer and hospitality. That's basically what they do. And that's still basically what they do. In the West, in the Western monastic tradition, oftentimes they were developed specific jobs for monastics. This order is a teaching order, this order is a preaching order, and in that sense could fit very well into modernity, as in, she became a nun, his teacher school isn't that nice, you know. On the other hand, with Orthodox monastics, in the face of modernity, they think, what good are they? What do they contribute to society? When the elder Sophrony sought to have permission to bring his small monastic community from France to England after World War II, they needed to have an act of parliament to allow them because there were limits on refugees or immigration. And so the question was put to them basically, what good will you do? And one of the members of parliament who was dealing with bringing up the bill said, well, this is maybe not a really good question to ask, you know, but it's like Judas saying the money could have been used to feed the poor. But the basic answer they gave them is, we will come and eat and pray. And that's what they did. I mean, they didn't come and say, and we will be a major force for introducing Orthodoxy into the United Kingdom. Though they were. That happened, but they had no way of knowing that. Their life hasn't changed there since they first brought it. And they live the life that is the life of Orthodox monastics across the world. I would say the same thing is true of the parish. The parish is that place. It is a place of sacraments. It is a place of healing, a place of confession, a place of wrestling with the passions, a place of the community and fellowship that supports us in it. I remember, again, something I learned some years back, that modernity has as one of its imaginary tasks is the elimination of suffering. And that sounds good. We want to end suffering. It's also why every time you turn around, modernity is going to kill you. Whether it's, euthanasia or abortion or whatever else it's doing, it's because ultimately the only way I can keep you from suffering is snuff you out. And so they ultimately, modernity's answer always will finally be death, because it can't do more. But it'll be a painless death, we can assure you. In the Christian life, we do not have a commandment to eliminate suffering. It's not a bad thing to heal people. It's not a bad thing to help them. And, I'm not against penicillin or any other modern medicines. I mean, the church was using medicine before modernity ever came into existence. I mean, these are ancient things. But the primary task of the church and of Christians is to be the kind of community that can support people in their suffering so they can bear it. Because everybody is going to suffer. That's life in this world. It don't have to be irrational suffering, or unnecessary suffering if there's something we can do. If they're hungry, we should feed them. But if I only feed a man and he's still suffering from the hunger of meaninglessness, then I haven't fed him. We live in a culture, for instance, that moves the elderly off into nursing homes pretty soon. We can't take care of them, and we all work, so who can be home and take care of them? And so we do that, and I'm at nursing homes every week, and they are lonely places. Thank God for the nurses and the staff, but they're lonely places at best. And and then people come in and visit, and they see a certain measure of suffering, and they'll shake their fist and say, why does God allow people to suffer like this? Or why don't we care more? And I'm thinking, well, you don't care more. We've become the kind of culture that cannot support them in what is one of the most natural things. Everybody gets old. Everybody suffers from old age. This is basic. We should take care of babies. We should take care of old people. This is just part of being human. To be an Orthodox Christian is to live into the fullness of our humanity. And that includes getting old, getting senile, or whatever else. What can the church do for me? Well, be here. Love them. Don't exclude them. Incorporate them. Be the kind of community that they can bear the difficulty and the pain of that. And so, you don't have to become a Benedict option to do that. I can understand certain elements of the Benedict option that are really quite good. And maybe you could even describe what I'm saying as a version of a Benedict option. Is just quit being an Orthodox version of a Protestant suburban bourgeois community that largely exists to meet the program expectations of its congregation. We have to think much more completely about our life. What does it mean to be human? How do we become the kind of community that can raise children, particularly raise children in a foreign culture or a culture that's hostile? Children, I see this, I hear it from other priests, our children are being alienated from just the thought world of Orthodoxy. We used to have a lot in common, say, with the moral thought world of general bourgeois 1950s morality. We don't have a lot in common with 2010's version of morality. And it's being marketed to our kids. And, you go on a college campus and, start saying things that are part of the church's moral teaching on sexuality, and you'll be labeled as a hate monger. Not just wrong, but evil. As an evil person. This is very difficult. And so, it's also true that at a certain point in the Soviet Union, just teaching a child religion was considered evil. So this is not the first time we've run into this kind of thing. We've been there before. And will it get worse? Of course it will get worse. Of course it will get worse. When will it get better? We have no idea. And in the meantime, we have to live today and tomorrow. And so then the question is just the simple question: how do we live today? How do we live tomorrow? Basically, we keep the commandments of Christ. We encourage each other. We make it easier for each other to keep the commandments of Christ. It's interesting. We have Mennonites in this part of the world, interestingly, and some Amish even, and more of them up in Kentucky and in Pennsylvania above that. They're getting to be like the last farmers left in some areas. And people don't quite understand the Amish. I mean, like, I've seen pictures of Amish boys on skateboards, and some people think, how can they ride skateboards? Well, the question is, they don't actually ask questions. They're not hostile to technology. They simply ask the question is, if we allow this piece of technology, will it change how we live? And obviously, in some of their communities, they thought skateboards will not change how we live. A television will change how we live, so no TV. That is, I think, amazingly responsible on their part. We need to think more honestly and carefully about how technology does our life. How do I live with it, especially knowing that all of the technology is marketing the passions to me. I challenge anybody to turn on Facebook, go on, and avoid the passions for 5 minutes. You can't. You will at least think somebody's stupid. And if you don't, then your circle of friends is too small. I mean, and you'll be angry. You'll even be tempted to say something. I hate it when I do that. I just think, oh no, I broke my rule again. And I feel so foolish. I mean, it's like, it's so foolish.
Hi again. I hope you enjoyed this episode from my interview with Father Stephen Freeman. Please subscribe to get notified when new videos become available, which happens every Friday. And if you would, please comment below to let me know what you thought of this video. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.